This is a carbon fiber tripod. I was sent this tripod to review. If you wanted to purchase it, it would cost you about $99. They haven't paid me for my review, and my opinions remain my own. Okay, so in the box, you get this little carrying bag with a tripod in it. You also have an accessory bag with an Allen wrench, a little manual, and what look like turf spikes. There's also thrown into the box a cell phone adapter, which has a 1/4x20 socket on both sides here, and then it will pinch a cell phone. So it's kind of your generic plastic spring-loaded pinchy cell phone mount. Alright, and this is the tripod itself in the folded configuration. So this is kind of one of those reverse fold tripods where these guys pop out into legs, and then you have the center point up here already. And they have these little red latches that will go all the way out or go all the way in. They're not spring loaded, so you just put them in and latch it where you want it to be. So they can be latched out at a super wide stance, or a narrower stance, or a quite narrow stance. Now, one of the legs is a little different. It has this lock, unlock, and it's really more of a screw. This guy can come off and operate as kind of a monopod leg. The other two legs do not unscrew. Now, all three legs have extensions where you twist in one direction, you can move this in and out, twist in the other direction, it locks in place. So each of these legs has 1, 2, 3 parts that extend out. So this is the maximum extension of the tripod. You can see I'm 6 feet here, so it's just a little bit under 6 feet where the top of this guy here rests. Now, this guy is in the up position when it's stowed. You can lower that down to get it a little bit shorter like that. Now, with everything retracted, the height of this guy is 25 inches right here. Now, these legs can go out, so you can make it have a wider stance. So when you do that wider stance, however, you're going to need to let this guy up just a little bit. So kind of at that wider stance like that, you're getting a little bit shorter. It's about 18.5 inches. And then they have the widest stance, so if you're trying to get something super stable, like this, you're really going to have to lift this guy up quite a ways. That doesn't look like you're gaining any real, that's still about 18 inches there. So 18 to 18.5 inches is kind of your lowest point without running into the ground with this guy. But if you have this thing spread all the way out like that, that's pretty stable, but it's also pretty short. All right, there's a little spring hook down here, so you can attach some weight to the bottom and hang it off of that spring hook. Also, this plug will just completely unscrew. And with that little plastic plug unscrewed, this guy will go all the way up. You can invert your center axis here. And so you can mount a camera upside down, low down to the ground between the tripod here, the pyramid of the tripod. Now, in addition to that, this screw here will also screw into the monopod. So if you unscrew this monopod, you have this guy here as a monopod with these leg sections that can also extend out. Now, I'm still deciding what I think about these leg mechanisms. So I've seen a lot of them where you push a button and it's spring loaded. You push the button, it releases, you can move it, you let go and it kind of snaps back in place. In this place, you have to pull it up and it stays up. So it's kind of nice. You don't have to have your finger on it while you're rotating around, but you got to push it down to latch it in place again. So it kind of is a pull, position, push down, maybe flip it all the way to that spot action. So there's a couple, it's not just like push down and rotate and release. So it takes a little bit more time to set in place. And like if you go down, it doesn't automatically latch, you know, when you go down. So you have to have this push down and then it'll latch. And then to get it out, you kind of have to, in some cases, you can't just pull, you have to release pressure, lift, move it to where you want it, push down, and then latch it up again. So I don't currently prefer these over the push buttons. On the other hand, you can pull, well, if you push release pressure, you can pull all three, move them without having another hand, you know, pushing on each one. But I'm not certain if there's any real advantage to this. So currently, I don't dislike them really, but it's different, and I don't see the advantage of it being different. I think I prefer the kind of spring-mounted things with you push down and you adjust and then it springs back on its own. So that's just my personal preference. So in the monopod configuration, your max height here is about 70.5 inches. Now each of the tripod legs has this screw-off rubber foot, and they also include these optional turf points. So it's not quite as simple as some I've seen where the turf point is hidden inside the rubber and you can screw the turf point in and out, but the turf points are quite a bit longer here, and there's a little hole there you can put the Allen wrench in and tighten it down a little more if you're worried about them coming out. You know, but that's a good inch-long turf point there. All right, so not including the turf points or the bag, the tripod itself weighs in at 3 pounds and say 12 to 13 ounces. Now a significant amount of that weight is this included ball head. You know, so that ball head there is a full 13 ounces, 13.7, say 14 ounces out of that weight. You know, so the tripod alone without a head on it is 2 pounds, 15 ounces. So as carbon fiber, it feels light for the size. It's very stiff. These little locking connectors here do a really good job of locking things down. So leg construction, I have no complaints about the extension of the legs, the stiffness of the legs. When you put this head on, the tripod starts to feel overbalanced just because comparatively the head is such a large percentage of the weight. So it starts to feel like it's a little heavy on the head side of things. I might be tempted to replace this head with something smaller or lighter with this tripod. All right, the ball head is certainly functional, nothing super fancy, but it gets the job done. It has a rotation lock here, so you can lock your pan rotation. It has 2 different knobs that lock down the ball from 2 different directions. I'm not sure if there's a reason one is larger than the other. I've been playing with it. I was thinking maybe one was like you get light resistance, you can control the resistance very precisely or something, and the other's for a lock. But as far as I can tell, they're basically just 2 knobs that both go into the ball and both lock the ball in place. And so I think it's just a matter of you get it where you want it, you can lock it down, and if you want it extra tight, you can use the other knob to really lock things in place. So there's 2 knobs for locking the ball. The quick release plate here does not have, so if you loosen it just slightly, it won't fall out while you're adjusting frontwards and backwards, but there's not like a button to push to release it. You just have to pull this farther out. When it's far enough out, the thing can just come in and out. So there's, you know, a spot there where you can slide things back and forth to adjust the balance without having to worry about things falling out, and then you just lock it in place. And it's a 1/4 by 20 is the only option on this quick release plate. It does have a little bubble level there on the top of the head. So I'm not disappointed in the ball head. It's perfectly functional, does everything I'd expect it to do. I'm just not amazed by the ball head either. Now, with the exception of the 1/4 by 20 quick release plate connector screw here, everything else in this tripod is 3/8. So you have the ball head connection there is 3/8. The points here are 3/8. And the monopod connection to the center upright inside of here is a 3/8 as well. So basically it's a 3/8 tripod with the exception of this little guy here for the 1/4 inch connection to your camera. So the only place where I really feel they kind of cheaped out in the construction is this little plug down here. It's all plastic. It doesn't appear to be any type of fancy, fiber reinforced plastic. It's just a plastic plug with a thumb screw, and then it has this spring clip attached to it. I think it can support a decent amount of weight because the weight is going to be put right on the threads here that tie directly into the center point. But it just feels cheap compared to the entire rest of the tripod. All right, materials wise, things like the turf tips appear to be stainless steel. Most of this is aluminum. There are some steel mounting pieces, like this connector here that goes to the camera is steel. Also, this hardware here is steel. This guy's aluminum, but these guys look to be steel. And of course, this guy's just cheap plastic, but it's also kind of an add-on part that's a bonus part. It's not really part of the tripod. So I think this guy is a nice, capable, lightweight travel folding tripod. I think it's worth the price. Guess suggestions I would have is maybe replace the head. These guys work perfectly functionally. I like the ones with the spring-loaded clips a little better. So when you're folding it up, you do have to adjust some things so that knobs don't hit the legs as they go in. So you just want to make sure you're avoiding most of these knobs so that this guy will fold up nice and tight. All right, the bag is kind of a two-layer, kind of a waterproof inner layer and kind of a heavy-duty outer layer. It doesn't have any internal pockets, so these are just going to have to sit in the bag just inside of the little storage bag. Zipped up, and it does have both a shoulder strap that you can extend out like this and the handle like that. A little tiny thin piece of neoprene over this handle to make it a little bit nicer to hold on to, but you don't really have a shoulder pad on the shoulder strap. On the other hand, the whole thing is less than 5 pounds.